The most impressive college football team in the country. I didn't say the best, the most impressive. Based on talent or lack thereof, lack of history. Hey, it's not Tennessee. It's not Georgia. It's not Oregon. It's not Ohio State. I could keep going. The most impressive team in the country, based on what they have to work with versus their results, is the Vanderbilt Commodores. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. I'm going to talk about that in just a second. I'm going to give you the reasons why. First, welcome to the show. I'm Brian. I'm glad you're here. I hope your weekend is going great. Now, here in the upstate of South Carolina, today, for those of you who are going to watch this later on, it's Sunday, October the 27th, last weekend in October. It's a nice, cool day. It actually feels like October. It's not 70 or 80 degrees, which, by the way, later on this week, it's supposed to get back, I want to say, in the late 70s, early 80s, somewhere in there. Temperatures, not decades. But yeah. So it's nothing like kids trick-or-treating or going to trunk-or-treat or whatever your tradition is while they're sweating. But today is a really, really nice day. Clemson was off yesterday. Some really cool games that went on. Some really interesting endings. I may talk about that, but I'm going to talk about Vanderbilt. If you like what I do, if you like talking about college football, I hope you will subscribe. It is free. It is free. Let's talk about Vandy. I got mixed. I actually tried to combine Vandy and Vanderbilt right there, and I sounded Vandy. Did you say Mandy? Nuh-uh. Okay, let me explain my case. Tennessee, if they recruit someone today, can they point at history? I know that up until the past few years, they've had some rough years. But can Tennessee point at history and well-known players like, I don't know, that guy who's with his brother every Monday night for Monday Night Football everybody'd rather watch than the actual broadcast, Peyton Manning? Yeah, they can mention him. They can mention the recent success in the past few years. They have history. Georgia, 2 national championships in the past 3 years. Even last year, we know what they did. Oregon has so much to offer. Maybe not the national championships that we could talk about with Georgia or maybe Alabama. But Oregon they're on the up and up right now unless the wheels come off. They have the whole Nike money going into it, so there's a reason to go play football at Oregon. Ohio State, they're paying out the butt right now to barely beat Nebraska. I'm not toning you. That's what happened yesterday. A Nebraska team that got beat by Cignetti and this Indiana team that I just keep waiting to fall apart. But all of those teams have history, they have resources, they have money. I mean, like Texas pours a lot of money into football. Ohio State, $20 million in NIL deals. Then you have coaches that are paid outrageous sums of money. And then have the audacity to go, well, winning's hard. I know I make tens of millions a year, and my buyout is more than all of you put together by times 14 will ever make. But it's hard with all these 5 stars and 4 stars. Cry me a river. And then there's Vanderbilt. There's Clark Lee and his smooth head standing on the sideline. He signed the dotted line to come to Vanderbilt. He knew what he was getting into. Vanderbilt is a really, really good academic institution. They've done well in baseball, some other sports here and there, but football, no. Now, this team is 5-3 right now, and there's one loss I look at and go, okay, that sounds like Vanderbilt. They lost. Okay, remember, Vanderbilt started off the season by beating Virginia Tech. And we thought Virginia Tech was a bunch of losers for that. Come to find out, Vanderbilt actually is a lot better than what we thought. Virginia Tech is a problem. Clemson's going to have to keep their eye on them. Next week, they beat the crap out of Alcorn State. But, listen to this. Vanderbilt plays at Georgia State and loses by 4 points. That doesn't make sense. Then the next week, they play at Missouri. They lose by 3 points. Then Bama comes to a 2-2, 0-1 in the SEC. Vanderbilt, and they beat Alabama. We know this. The next week, they beat Kentucky. Then they play Ball State, play really bad, and win by 10 points. I don't know if there were injuries there. Y'all forgive me. I don't keep up with Vanderbilt that much. And then last night happened. Or yesterday. Texas comes into Nashville. And I had Jay from the Rock Boys on here earlier this week. I hope y'all go watch that video. It was a great time. He was incredible. He gives really good commentary. But he comes in here, and I'm going to get to the comment section here in just a second. But we both agreed, and he said this, Texas is probably going to be a buzzsaw, and after last week's loss to Georgia, they're just going to hammer Vandy. That didn't happen. Texas goes back to Austin with a 3-point win over Vanderbilt. Texas, a team that pours so much money into football. Texas, a team who has so many 5 stars, 4 stars, big-time transfer players playing for them. It's crazy, ain't it? Let's do this. Let's go to 24/7 Sports 2024. There's a bunch of numbers there. College football team talent composite. Meaning they're rating teams. Who are the most talented teams in the country based on how many 5, 4, 3 stars and their average. The number one team in the country right now, according to composite, meaning they're the most talented teams based on 5 and 4 stars, 3 stars, is Alabama, followed by Georgia, Ohio State, Texas at number 4, and Dabo Swinney at number 5, followed by Oregon, Oklahoma, LSU, Notre Dame, Texas A&M. You going down, you see Miami at 14, you see Tennessee at 17. You go through a bunch of teams, and you get all the way down to number 50. With California and Syracuse and Kansas in front of them. And teams like Stanford and teams like Purdue in front of them is Vanderbilt. And Vanderbilt goes and plays Texas and takes them down to the wire. Beats Alabama after they beat Georgia. You're like, Brian, why are you rambling about this? I'm going to tell you why I'm rambling about this. A 5-3 football team, even with a loss to Georgia State, is more impressive than these other teams who eat, sleep, breathe, poop out football. They have money coming out their ears. If you're like Texas, you have celebrities who's hanging around. Last night, I was watching the Florida State-Miami game. Ray Lewis is standing on the sideline. Who does Vanderbilt have? Jay Cutler? And Aaron Rodgers' brother, who just happened to be, I think, on The Bachelorette. Well, they have an NFL football player here and that. Compared to Miami, compared to Tennessee, Georgia, Ohio State, I know you might have drank too much last night, but come on, don't tell me that you've drank yourself stupid. You understand what I'm saying here. The most impressive team in the country right now in my book, based on the talent they don't have, the history they don't have, is Vanderbilt. I mean, it's a no-brainer. How many times do you sit there and listen? And I'm going back here. I'm sorry, I'm going back here because it does matter. How many times do you sit and listen to a coach who has all the tools that you could ever want in coaching? You have the money coming into the program. You can build any facility that you want. You have players at your disposal. People just hear your name and it's like, oh, Texas is coming? Oh, yeah. I would love to talk to them. Georgia's coming? Yes, I want to talk to Georgia. Ohio State is here? Oh, yes. Yes, I want to talk to them. That's their calling card. They don't have to sell you on Ohio State, Georgia, Tennessee, Texas. You don't have to sell them. They have everything at their disposal. On top of that, and this does matter. I know this makes some of you uncomfortable and you don't like that I bring it up, but these coaches making more in 1 week than what you make in an entire year or year and a half, yet they have the audacity to sit there and whine like Chinese. I did not, that sounded weird. I combined words. I was so worked up I combined words again. Childish, whiny, and I turned it into Chinese. That's a new word, trademark. But these coaches sit there, they have all of this at their disposal, all these talented players. They make tons of money, and they still have the audacity to sit in a coaching conference, press conference, post-game, pre-game, mid-game, midweek, pre-week, post-week, and go, winning is hard. No, maybe you're just not as good at your job as, well, we all thought you were. Maybe you were good at one time, but now you've become complacent. Maybe you're a narcissist and you fell in love with the person in the mirror that stares at you every time you go to the bathroom in the morning. Maybe you're too caught up in the X's and O's and how intelligent it is the play you just called versus the result of the play you just called. And then there's Vanderbilt. By the way, just water. Just Vanderbilt. It's just Vanderbilt. Just hanging out here, eating apps, playing games. Clark Lee knew when he signed on at Vanderbilt, hey, there's nothing to work with here. Nothing to work with here. There's no $20 million in NIL we're giving away up here. I just have some guy I got out of New Mexico State, whichever one it is, whichever bad team it is, that when you say Diego Pavia, you go, is that a kicker? Can't you hear it right now? Coming out for the 59-yard field goal is Diego Pavia. He's hit from here before. Doesn't sound like a quarterback, but let me tell you what, when he went on that scramble for that first touchdown against Texas, and he dove from about the 5 or 4 yard line and stretched his body out like Stretch Armstrong, Texas at that point realized it didn't matter how many NIL deals they had. It didn't matter how many stars they were coming out of high school. It didn't matter how many times they got to shake hands with Matthew McConaughey in Austin while he's going, all right. It didn't matter. At that moment, Diego Pavia looked at them and went, I don't care. And he scored a touchdown on them. They're going like, I thought we could just show up and win. Vanderbilt's the most impressive team in college football. The most overachieving team in college football. I want to get in here and say hello to some people. Riley, what's up, man? Good to see you. Parker, Henderson, Mo, buddy. Yes, you agree. We were texting yesterday during that game. Parker supports channel on a monthly basis. You see that symbol beside his name? He's supporting on a monthly basis. Thank you for doing that. Folks, if you want to do that as well, there's a join button below the video. Hope you'll do that. Hope you'll at least subscribe. It is free. Thanks, Parker. Good to see you, man. As a Tennessee fan, I'm worried about the last game of the year now. Yeah, Corn Pop, my brother-in-law graduated Tennessee. He said the same thing in a text message yesterday. He said, I am now more worried about them than ever. And that was while the game was going on. Texas could have pulled away and beat the crap out of them. But they didn't. Watching and listening to from St. Louis while at work. Wow, you making me feel important, man. Thanks so much. Norvell is the perfect example of his players making him look good. Ooh. If I had a $60 million buyout, you better believe I'm talking every game until I get fired. Yeah. Tanking. I got you. Yes, Vandy is legit. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, they are. Realistic one. Happy Sunday, Daddy-O. Good to see you. Big John. I see that symbol there. Thank you so much, Big John. Thanks for supporting the channel. Realistic one. Vandy has more money than most teams. SEC revenue share. Hey, I get it. Voodoo Chant, join the channel. It is cheap. You won't miss the money. Brian is the football professor. You know what? I might just need to check. I've been thinking about changing my channel name. I know you're like, Brian, didn't you do that last year? Yes, but I'm thinking about changing the channel name. It might be football professor. I don't know. I might do that. Big John, you might have inspired me. I don't know. Sup, folks? Good to see you. Smash that like button for not Bobby Yell. Good to see you, Matthew. Powerful and well said. Thanks, Michael Holbrook. Good to see you. Just think, Auburn could have had Pavia, but they decided to turn the ball over 20 times a game instead. This is true. Let's get back in here. And then I'm going to close down this video. AP Top 25 should be coming out any moment now, and then I think in the next 30 minutes. But I'm telling you, I was sitting there watching Vanderbilt do what they did, even in a loss. And I sat there as a Clemson fan with recent history behind us. And what I mean by that, it's not like we're talking about a national championship that we won in 2001. You know who you are. It's not like we're talking about a national championship we won in 1988 or even 2010. We're talking about national championships 16 and 18. But over the past few years, Clemson's went this, hoping that they're going back up, but they have a lot to prove. And I realized while I was thinking about this that Vanderbilt actually had a more impressive win a few weeks ago against Alabama than Clemson has had in like 4 years. Pretty much. Maybe even longer. Maybe you have to go back to that first round of 2019 and they beat Ohio State. Maybe that was the last most impressive win or the highest ranked win that they had. And I'm not taunting anyone here. I'm not trying to just tick off someone. I am telling the truth, though. Vanderbilt, in that win against Alabama, did that with way less talent than what Clemson had. I just told you the composite rankings for Clemson for this season is number 5. The only teams in front of them is Bama, Georgia, Ohio State, and Texas at number 4. Next time you start to hear about the talent fall off at Clemson, point back to that and tell that person, stop talking about everything they've been hearing other people who don't know what they're talking about. Stop saying it. Clemson has a lot of talent. But Vanderbilt is more impressive than any of these other teams when you consider who they don't have on their team, when you consider the history they don't have, when you consider the effectiveness and the brand recognition, which, by the way, we call that tradition. Do you have a tradition of football? The modern term would be brand. When you commonly hear me talk about Clemson, we got to be careful of protecting the brand at this time. I talk about I don't want Clemson to go to the playoff if they're going to get the crap beat out of them like TCU did against Georgia. And now you see TCU is into oblivion. Well, Brian, we won 2 national championships. Yeah, that was 6 and 8 years ago. The kids you're recruiting right now, they were like 11 when that last national championship was won. If they're a sophomore, they were probably around 10, 9. How many 9 and 10-year-olds are really paying attention? And don't even talk about the Watson years because they were still peeing themselves at night when they went to sleep. That's how long ago that was. You have to protect the brand. Vanderbilt has no brand or tradition to protect. but they are being more effective now than a lot of these blue bloods when you consider the talent they don't have, the history they don't have, the brand they don't have. It's crazy. All right, folks, get to the comment section. I'm going to head out of here, and then I'm going to do a video, and I hope you'll be there. Hope you'll be there. If you got to go take a dump, you can't listen to it, or you got to go talk to the wife and kids about, not setting the house on fire, you go do that. You go do that thing. But anyway, I am going to do a video, and I'm going to talk about this Miami-Florida State game, and listen to me. I am stirring the pot. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, I am stirring the pot a little bit. But I may just do a recap of yesterday. I don't know. And definitely when the AP Top 25 comes out, I'm going to do a video on that as well. So I'm going to at least do one more video, be looking out for it. I hope you will hit the thumbs up. Remember, that is free. Let's get in here. Say hello. Michael Holbrook. My God, I can't speak. I promise, that's just water. $5 super sticker. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. I really do appreciate it. It helps it out. It really helps me out. I really do appreciate it. Don't mean to brag, but we won 2 back-to-back national championships in 50 and 51. Hey, I like it. I like it. Will Eubanks, I think the most impressive recent Clemson win was dismantling that Alabama team in 2018. That is the only time I can remember Alabama getting blown out. That's true. David Wood spit the truth, Brian. Hey, sometimes I spit. Sometimes it's the truth. Tommy Williams. Dropping some dough here. Tommy Williams, $5. Thank you so much, my friend, for supporting the channel. It's very kind of you. I appreciate the support. Michael Holbrook says, yep. Tommy says, you're definitely not lying, Brian. You're definitely not lying. You're definitely not lying. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Folks, I hope you will hit the subscribe button. Remember, it is free if you like what I'm doing. I hope you'll pass it around. I'll start passing it around. Let's grow this channel a little more, get more people all mad and upset. But hit the thumbs up. I do appreciate it. Be looking out for another video. John Kurtz, before I go, John Kurtz, he's been on ESPN. He's been on other channels. He and I are planning for the third Monday in a row. We're trying to get him on here. His schedule does change, so I'm being flexible. He's being flexible to potentially come back on. But we're going to try to get him back on here tomorrow. But definitely, unless something changes, Tuesday at 12 o'clock, Pigskin Pete is going to be joining me on the channel. My old buddy, Pigskin Pete. And folks, yeah, it's going to be a good time. It's going to be a good time. It's always good to hang out with Pete. Y'all take care of yourself, and you know what's coming. As always, go Tigers.